Hello and welcome. Today is answering your career questions inspired by an event I just attended with the Society of Women Engineers. So, today I'm going to be talking about asking questions as a person of authority. Because sometimes it's easier to ask questions when you're new in your career, but once you've kind of moved along and you're more senior, how do you, as a woman, ask questions without losing your credibility? So we'll talk about that. That will lead me into talking about bias and how you overcome that as a woman in corporate spaces and what you can do to use bias to open doors for you. And our third and final question today, inspired by this wonderful event, is going to be how to stand out through the application process, because I'm hearing from the ladies there that a lot of people are getting callbacks. They're getting to the point where they're getting interviews, but they're not being selected. They're not being asked back for multiple interviews. So, like, how do you maintain standing out through that process? So the first, if you haven't already subscribe to my channel. My name is Malia Lim. I'm a career coach for women in STEM and helping you navigate the corporate game so you can go from undervalued to making significant impact. All right. So the first question is, how do you ask questions as a figure of authority without losing your credibility as a woman? So one of the things that I like to do now that I'm kind of a little more senior in my career is I really give a lot of context, but I do it in a one-on-one. And so this is going to take a little bit more time for you to establish this as a relationship. But when I'm asking questions, when I'm giving work authority, I like to do it in a one-on-one so that we can have discussions are not around the task, but around the importance of that work. So whether it's I'm giving work, right, which is a position of authority, or I need to ask for clarifying information, I want to be able to really have an authentic moment where we touch base and we talk and we can converse. And especially for me, I work remote. Like, this is really important for me to maintain relationships with my team. So when you're asking questions early in your career, especially as a woman, it's much easier. You're like, oh, hey, I don't know anything. Help me. What is this? Help me figure this out. And people are usually a little more open to that because it makes sense. You're early in your career. And just playing ditzy, so to speak, it plays into the bias, and it doesn't raise any ears or any hairs in that sense. But later on, when you're like, hey, I need to know what's going on. What is this? Why is this important? It A lot of women struggle with this because they feel like they're going to lose their credibility if they don't know the answer to everything. And so, also in the same vein, when you're giving work direction to someone who may have a bias or doesn't want to be told what to do by a lady, um, this tactic works for that as well. Like, it's essentially the same tactic for both of those scenarios. So I like to have one-on-ones or very, very small group conversations where we can talk around the issue, right? Like, you don't want to lead people to an answer that if you already knew the whole time, because then they're going to feel like you're manipulating them. It's more about, hey, I love sharing my screen in these settings. I will open up codes. I will show them the figures. I will explain to them, like, hey, when the guys are out in the field, they need to be able to access. This is what it looks like. This is how much space there is. Or, I will pull up little short videos or whatever, just help give them a visualization of what it is I'm trying to explain. People really appreciate having the visualization just so that they can process the information you're telling them. But I will give them historical context as to, hey, this is why this is important in our industry. This is why this is important. I tell a lot of stories now because, like, hey, I had an incident where we went down and it cost our unit this amount of money and we were down. And then there were all these projects and we got audited and it was a nightmare. I don't want us to have that again. So it's really important that you do this work. Or, I'm just trying to understand, are we in the same situation? This is why I'm so concerned. Like, really painting the picture around what it is and why it means so much to either you or the business or the project. Giving them that background and that context really goes a long way, especially if it's a new person, or honestly, if it's a more senior person, because then they can kind of understand where you're coming from. And if for the new people, it gives them insight that they wouldn't be able to understand, and so they can appreciate learning from you and all of those things. So I think it's important to do that, but then on the flip side, also ask those things. So when I'm asking, right, I'm just like, hey, is this being driven by schedule? Is this being driven by quality? Are we trying to, like, what are we trying to achieve here? Okay, so in the perfect scenario, what will we do? Is that are there other considerations right now? Okay, so given that, are these options okay? Or do we need something else? Like, I like to kind of just extract information from them, other people, in a sense that I want to understand where you're coming from. Just like when I'm giving work direction, I want you to understand where I'm coming from, because what this does is it transfers ownership, where I'm not just telling you to do something, or I'm not just like asking a random question, where it is a full download of all of the context around that task, so that you, as someone receiving my work instructions, can own it. And then I will say, hey, let's have a follow-up next week, and I'll give you feedback on the progress that you're making. Also, if I'm asking for things, I'm like, okay, let's have a follow-up next week so I can show you what I'm doing, and you can give me feedback as well, right? Because you have now downloaded all the relevant information to me. I should be able to run with it, but if not, like, let's course correct before we go too far. And this transfers ownership. And so it still maintains your position as authority, because you now are owning that task with the information that they've given you. You just need to clarify. And so it's not as much as just like, oh, I don't know, can you ask me? When you're asking insightful questions as to what are the drivers, why did we get here, what are the things we've considered, why won't this work? Okay, well, typically we do this. Is that not an option here? Like, help me understand where we're at today, right now, and why we got here and what we're trying to achieve. Okay, got it. I'm going to go run with this. I'm good to go. We're going to go run with this. I'm going to give this to my team, and I will come check back in with you if I need help, and vice versa. If you need help running with whatever I'm giving you, let's have a check-in so I give you feedback. This approach is an authoritative approach, and it maintains your credibility because you're able to ask insightful questions that are really going to give the context needed around whatever task it is. And when you do it one-on-one or in small groups, it allows you to relate to the other person, rather than it being like a big setting where opinions can quietly form in the corners of the room. Okay. So this kind of like led me to think about, and also the way that the conversation was going, with being able to ask questions when you're a younger woman or a younger professional, and it not being a big deal. And then later on, when you're a little older, it's kind of like taken as, oh, you don't know this yet. And so there's which I think it's kind of ridiculous, like, in general, but we will not spend too much time there. I'm just going to talk about this. So the thing about bias, right? So like when you're younger and you're asking a bunch of questions, whether you're just like, I'm young, I'm new, I'm ditzy, whatever it is, for whatever reason, it's a lot easier to use that tactic than when you're older, right? And that is because the bias is that younger people don't know as much. And so when you're asking questions, that plays into the bias, and it allows you to work more easily with other people. But when you're older, you're supposed to know these things. And so then it kind of clashes because when you're asking, if you're not doing it tactfully, you could be losing credibility. And so it's a different bias that you have to navigate. And so from that, I kind of thought like, okay, well, on my drive home, I was thinking about this a little bit more. It's really understanding what the bias is and using that to open doors for you. So what I mean by that is, like, again, when you're younger and you're asking questions, it's easy to go in because that's what they're expecting of you. And then once you kind of get past that hurdle and they realize, like, oh, she's asking really insightful questions, she follows up, oh, she really takes this and runs with it, then they kind of see, then it allows them to let their guards down and see you as the professional that you are. But later on, those biases are not always the ones that other people are operating off of. So it's up to you to figure out what bias they may be operating off of. So for women, a lot of the biases are that we're home takers, we're nurturers, we're gossips, we're drama, we're ditzy, we're weak, we're whatever. Like, there's a lot of different biases that have characteristics that go along with being a woman. So try and think about, like, where you are in age, where you are in career, and think about what that looks like as context for a bias that a woman would have, right? And so for the example that I brought up at the lunch is that I used to bring cupcakes, and like, I early in my career, operators and engineers didn't get along, and so I struggled to relate to the operators, but I was one of the only girls. And so I was like, okay, well, fastest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. I'm going to bring in cupcakes. And that let them take their guards down, right? Like, who doesn't love a sweet young girl with some cupcakes and she's a home taker? Like, this played into the bias. And so it let their guards down, and and then we built relationships and worked really, really, really well together after that. And that actually opened a lot of doors for me using that tactic, right? As a baker or whatever. And mind you, I didn't even make those cupcakes. My roommate made those cupcakes. Like, I couldn't cook for anything when I graduated college. Like, so that's neither here nor there, but just figuring out what potential bias they may have, lean into it, right? Like, I literally was not even making my own cupcakes. I had somebody else make them, but I was leaning into that bias so that I could get access to that person and demonstrate to them that I am of high value within the context of their bias. And then from there, they have subconsciously assigned me as a high value person, and they believe it because it aligns with their bias value system. And so now when they get to know me and they get to see me as a professional and they get to work with me, now they're like, oh yeah, she's good in every area. Like, she's good at everything that she does because she makes the best cupcakes. Okay, so like, when you think about other biases, like later on in my career, I wasn't bringing in cupcakes, but I often, again, with these one-on-one conversations, that was the bias of being like a gossip. And so a lot of times when I would have conversations, I would almost not dramatize it, but almost dramatize it, like, where I'm just like, oh, well, this isn't coming from me, but let me tell you what's going on with the business unit, and like, they really need this. And like, I would kind of almost make it seem like I'm gossiping, but I'm literally just telling them what's going on with the organization and why we need this work done, right? Where I could just say it like regular, where it's like, hey, the schedule came out, we need to get this done, yada yada. Okay. Or I can be the gossip and just be like, hey, the schedule isn't out yet, but I was in the meeting and they are really going to come down. So I just want to tell you about this so you can get ahead of the ball here. Is there anything that I can do to help you get this done? Here, let me, okay, I'm going to send you over the information. All right, cool. Let's talk next week. You got this, right? Where it feels like I'm like gossiping, but I'm really just getting work done. So like, I would think about the different types of biases that people can potentially have against women, and I would kind of trial test it. I would be the gossip with people, or I would be the homemaker. Like, oh my gosh, let me tell you about my garden. Let me tell you about like it really just depends on who your audience is, and so you have to kind of test these things. And by the way, my garden is we're down to like 3 trees. Okay, I'm no green thumbs out here. Um, but like for some people I was their daughter. For some people I was like they have new grandchildren, and so I related to their children in the sense that I have a newer child, a young child. And so like I'm talking to them about their grandparent journey, and then I'm just like, oh my gosh, yeah, like, these new age parents, we like were, BPA plastics and forever chemicals, and it's so and he's like, oh yeah, I know my kids, they're always talking about I can't get stuff for my grandchildren, and I'm sending them recommendations. Like I use the idea that of what they have in their mind is who I'm supposed to be, to validate that I am a high quality person within that context. And then I use that open door to then demonstrate to them that I am a high quality professional. And they will automatically accept that as true because they've already accepted it is true within the bias that they operate under. Okay, so that is a tactic that women can use, and you might have to like play around with it and get used to it. Another way that you can figure out what bias they're operating on is allowing them to speak more than you speak. So asking them questions about their life or about working with other people, and just kind of like hearing some of the way they talk about other women, or the way they talk about other men and things like that, and trying to pick up cues that way. Also, letting other people speak builds trust, so that when you do realize what their bias is, you can leverage that more quickly because you've already built some trust by allowing them to talk. So this is like, I realize like this might be a lot to kind of process for some people. I know it was for me when I was new and technical. Like I didn't even realize that I was doing some of these things until I started reading books. So make sure you're definitely reading development books. If you're looking for a list, you can check out the links that I have listed below. One of them is the 12 books that I recommend every woman, every professional woman read. So when it comes to like relating with other people and building rapport with them, one of the books I recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Some of these tactics are not in there because they're specific to women in corporate spaces and male dominant spaces. But just in general, that book is really, really good, and will help you, give you some tools and some perspectives as you go about trying to navigate biases. So, yeah, like one of the ladies at the lunch was saying like, oh, she looks young, but she's like pretty senior, and she keeps being treated like she's young. And I was just like, well, you should embrace that. Like, just be like, yes, I'm young. I'm the AI expert, and you guys need to know this. And here's some AI stuff. And then once that validates that you're the young person, then you can hit them with okay, so now based off of my 20-30 year experience, we need to be doing this. And they'll be like, oh wow, oh my gosh. So anywho, lean into the bias, use it to validate your level of quality within their minds and their value systems, and then you will be able to get in, and they're adopting you as a high value person, a professional in other areas will come automatically. All right, so then the last topic that I have for you, and then we'll wrap this up, is how to stand out through job interviews. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and make a separate one because this one is going to be, I can't do this quickly. I cannot do this quickly because there's just so many layers to this, especially in today's job market. So look, if you want that video, I'm going to link it somewhere on the YouTube page. So go ahead and watch that separate video, and it's going to give you tactics to how to stand out through the interview process to make sure that you actually land the job, but also position you to negotiate for a higher salary. Like that is what I help my clients do. That's like kind of my thing. So go ahead, check out that other video. But thank you, Society of Women Engineers, for having this wonderful event. I look forward to more events with you. And if you are looking to host an event and you would like me to be a speaker, feel free to reach out. My email is somewhere on my YouTube page. Until next time, my name is Malia Lim. I am a career coach for women in STEM and male dominant technical industries, helping you navigate from going undervalued, unseen, to making significant, undeniable impact and securing raises and promotions and all those wonderful things. So I will see you in the next one. Cheers to amazing careers. And until next time, stay savvy.